If you keep getting blocked, unblocked, pushed away, pulled back in, accused, blamed, discarded, and yet somehow you still keep going back after you swore you were done, if so, this video is for you. I'm Lise Leblanc, therapist, author, and life coach, and I help men understand the psychological dynamics that keep them stuck in toxic relationships. And today I'm going to explain why a narcissistic or borderline partner blocks you, pulls you back in, suddenly acts loving and obsessed with you, and then starts pulling away again the moment you get close and emotionally invested. And if you stick around to the end, I will explain why she might be seeking attention, validation, and other men during those periods of separation. If you want to learn more about betrayal trauma, type betrayal in the comment section below. Okay, so if you feel like you're trapped in this push-pull cycle that's psychologically damaging and yet you feel like you can't get out, it's not because you're weak. It's because over time, your nervous system starts experiencing her as the only person who can stop the pain and suffering and make you feel okay again. Now, think about how crazy making that is for a second. The person who's accusing you, blocking you, threatening to leave, withdrawing affection, betraying you with other men, maybe, also becomes the one person whose voice or text message can instantly calm your nervous system. That's not healthy attachment. That's a nervous system being trained to crave relief from the very person who is causing the pain. And whether she's doing this intentionally or because of trauma or some diagnosis, abuse is still abuse. And if someone keeps harming you, betraying you, manipulating you, threatening you, but refuses to take real accountability and do the hard work to change, eventually the explanation stops mattering. Because at the end of the day, you're still suffering ongoing damage. And that's why these relationships are so confusing. Because when you finally leave or get discarded, you feel relieved at first. You feel like you can finally breathe and get your life back. But then a few days pass, maybe it's a week, and suddenly the withdrawal starts kicking in. Agitation, obsessive thinking, anxiety, shame, loneliness, restlessness, cravings, constantly checking your phone and her social media, worrying about whether she's with another man, remembering all those good times. And this is where men start gaslighting themselves. Because once your nervous system gets dysregulated enough, your brain starts rewriting reality. You stop focusing on the abuse, the accusations, the lies, the chaos, the disrespect, the emotional volatility, the double standards, the manipulation, and instead, your brain starts romanticizing the good parts, the chemistry, the connection, the sex, her vulnerability, the fantasy of who she could be and the future you could have together if only she could be a stable person. Well, she's not. And your brain refuses to accept that the same woman who can make you feel intensely loved, valued, connected, and alive is also the woman emotionally destroying you. And because you can't logically resolve this contradiction, you rationalize, minimize, justify, and maybe even blame yourself. Maybe you tell yourself that you're overreacting, or maybe that she's not that bad, or that you're the problem, or she just is traumatized. And maybe this time will be different. But that's the trap because logically, you know the relationship is a destructive cycle, but emotionally, you need the relief that only she can provide. So you end up getting back together, but then sometimes within hours or days, you're back in the chaos. And it's emotionally exhausting. You're walking on eggshells and you're resentful because once closeness is restored, her fears, insecurity, distrust, shame, jealousy, and fear of abandonment get activated again. So the relationship quickly turns from, I miss you so much, I need you, I love you, back to the suspicion, accusations, testing, control, emotional volatility, or pushing you away or discarding you again. And when she does that, she might be turning to other men for validation, attention, reassurance, revenge, or rescue. And this is what makes these relationships so psychologically brutal for men. Because over time, the betrayals start piling up. The lies, the double standards, the emotional cheating, sometimes physical cheating. And rationally, you know this should make it easier to walk away. But instead, the chaos, the unpredictability, the breakups, the makeups, and all those brief moments of connection are often what make you even more attached and trauma bonded. And this is why so many men in these relationships feel like they're betraying themselves. Because when the withdrawal gets intense enough, the need for relief starts overpowering logic. And that's not because you're stupid, it's because your nervous system has become dependent on her to stop the pain that she's causing. So when she sends that text saying she misses you, and suddenly she's soft and vulnerable again and promising to do whatever it takes to make this work, your nervous system lights up and you go back for another round. And that can cause a lot of shame. And you might be questioning yourself, wondering, why can't I stop? What is wrong with me? But I want you to listen carefully because trauma bonds are not primarily logical, they are physiological. And your entire nervous system becomes conditioned not just to her, but to the entire cycle of rupture, relief, pursuit, reunion, and emotional intensity. And over time, your nervous system isn't just dependent on her, but it's attached to the entire cycle: the breakup, the craving, the chasing, the reunion, the relief, the intensity, the chaos, and the temporary rewards that you get when she pulls you close again and makes you feel great. Obviously, this isn't normal, healthy relationship behavior. Yes, healthy people can take space from each other. Healthy people might give second chances after a rupture. But what they don't do is spend months or years blocking, unblocking, disappearing, reconnecting, and repeatedly throwing the relationship into chaos and uncertainty. And this is the really dangerous part because the more chaotic, painful, and unstable the relationship becomes, often the more invested and trauma bonded you get. And for many men, their self worth gets tied to being needed, to being able to calm her down and stabilize her, to being the man she finally changes for. But of course, she doesn't change. So you end up not just fighting for the relationship, you're fighting for your self worth, your identity, your sense of safety and purpose, maybe even your emotional survival. And this is why leaving a toxic partner can feel like you're failing as a man, failing as a protector, losing purpose, losing identity, losing the fantasy that if you were just good enough, patient enough, loving enough, or willing to sacrifice enough, you could win her over and finally get the stable, loving, emotionally safe version of her to stay for good. But here's the good news. The fact that you can observe the cycle means you're already starting to wake up from it. Because healing starts when you stop asking, how do I get her to change? And start asking, what is my role in all of this? And how do I break the cycle? Because the moment you realize that this panic, this obsession, this urge to reach out or re engage, this desperation to fix it is your nervous system trying to escape emotional pain. That's when everything starts to change. Because now you're no longer confusing distress with destiny. So, as promised, one of the main reasons so many narcissistic and borderline partners keep backup options waiting in the wings is because they are deeply insecure and distrusting of all people, often due to past trauma. And because they're emotionally underdeveloped, they depend on others for their emotional survival. And this can feel like safety and danger at the same time. Because if they're attaching their entire sense of safety, worth, validation, reassurance, and emotional stability to one person, then losing that person would be catastrophic. So instead of putting all her emotional eggs in one basket, she often keeps other people orbiting in the background. Because if the primary relationship crashes, there's already other sources of attention, reassurance, or validation lined up to prevent collapse. Now, obviously, not everyone with borderline or narcissistic traits keeps backup relationships or behaves in this way. If this video resonated with you, please let me know in the comment section. And if you're trying to break a trauma bond, check out the links below for my recovery resources and coaching programs. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.